Hello, everyone. My name is Sophia Moshasha. I do a lot of things in the industry and have been in XR for about 5 years now, working on the strategy and the marketing lead gen side, kind of connecting strategic partners together and connecting partners and clients together as well. Do a lot with Terry here, who I'm about to introduce. Terry Proto is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Virtual Reality Marketing. And I'll let him go into a little bit more detail on his introduction. But we are going to be talking about none else than the metaverse, but specifically the business of the metaverse, what it's about, how to get involved, how to plan for the long term, and how to get connected with the right resources and the right collaborators to make your metaverse project or XR project a success. So Terry, welcome to the stage. Please tell everyone who you are and give some background on you and VRM.
All right, cool. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here with you today. I am Terry Proto. I'm CEO, co-founder of Virtual Reality Marketing, VRM. And about us, I think the short version of this is, for the past few years, we've been on a mission to connect enterprises with leading metaverse creators. VirtualRealityMarketing.com is the largest showcase of immersive companies. We've got 3,000 members, XR companies worldwide listed on our site. We've got the largest library of XR case studies with 500 plus case studies across all business verticals. We are also the largest community of AR and VR professionals, a group called RIN on LinkedIn, Reality Innovators Network. And we've got over 65,000 members and growing fast. It's kind of crazy. And finally, we are a business consultancy specialized in all things AR and VR again. And our goal is really to be a guide to the business metaverse. We really want to inspire, educate, and then facilitate immersive business in that order.
So we're going to get into a lot of what you're doing later on in the conversation because it's very critical to the success of the growth of this industry. But I'd like to set the stage for everyone in understanding what the landscape of the awareness and the implementation of immersive technology has been up to now.
Yeah, so that is a good question. And what a lot of people may not realize is that immersive technology has been around for a really long time. I like to say more than 25 years, but some say even longer. And originally, it kind of spawned, at least it accelerated, it spawned from the military, but it really accelerated with the video games world. You started to see a lot of interactive 3D application with PlayStations, basically, with like the first PlayStation in the 90s. That's 1994. And for a long while, it's been used mostly for games console. And that's the one application that people have known of, being in a 3D world and moving around. That's your PlayStation. And I think that's one of the reasons why often people say that when they see 3D, interactive 3D, they say it's gaming. Well, it comes from that. And then you also have mobile, and mobile phones, iPads, tablets have become more and more 3D capable, again, mostly for games. And if you fast forward to 2016, that's where there was the rebirth of VR. I'm saying rebirth because, again, there's a long history here. And there's the first Oculus device, there's the Facebook acquisition. All of this has drawn a lot of attention. And people have started realizing that this technology could be used for more than games. And back then, it was still early days. So it was still a lot about, there's no application about it. It's still in the future. And for the last, 3-4 years, there's been a lot of experimentation, people applying XR technology to various verticals. And often what's been interesting is that we've seen spectacular gains in productivity or ROI, those kind of things. And I think since last year, we've entered this more mature phase where people start to realize that immersive tech is not a fad. It's touching every industry. And there are several key use cases. You keep hearing about the usual suspects of training and e-commerce and remote working and because it's endless.
Yeah, and on that, the past couple of years have been really interesting for a variety of reasons, but specifically in accelerating the growth of immersive technologies and emerging technologies at large. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on what you think the tipping point was for why there is now so much attention and investments in the metaverse now, because we have moved past the proof of concept stages, and people and companies are hiring for chief metaverse officers now that aren't traditionally technology companies. So tell us a little bit more about this trend and this fad that's going on now.
Yeah. So I think my short version of this is that it's this perfect storm of favorable factors that have been going, that have been a long time in the making. I kind of like this expression saying that it's a 20 years overnight success, if you will. It's like all of those things have been brewing in the background and they kind of like connect and mesh together at the same time. And then, oh, wow, there's this thing. And so, as I was just saying before, you've got the technology, it's matured for 25 years, still growing super fast. The hardware, right now we are at this place where it's a sweet spot of being accessible and very powerful. And I'm talking all the hardware. I'm talking about VR headsets. I'm talking about phones, tablets, computers. Like, even any phone now is a 3D powerhouse comparable to a PlayStation 3 or 4, if you want to put it simply. And the business cases are here now. And I think COVID is also a big factor because it has pulled the future forward. It's really accelerated the need of everyone to go remote and to go digital and also to be creative and to think outside of the box and think of, really push hard to imagine innovative solutions. And last factor, I think the massive success of online gaming worlds, Fortnite, for instance, Roblox, but and not just the games, but all the things that go around it. So for Fortnite, you had the Travis Scott concert, the Ariana Grande concert, and people start to realize they're drawing massive communities of millions of people. And you have all those things. That's my perfect storm. And then you had the Facebook announcement in October, and it's just an acknowledgement of all those things that have been going on. I say in the background, but it's not exactly the background. It's been going on for a while anyways. And boom. And now we are just starting to see the beginning of going from niche to mainstream. And so everyone in the XR industry have been talking about where this hockey stick curve is going to go vertical. And I think that's right now. And it's been a long time making.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the convergence of all these capabilities and technologies and the awareness and the creativity kind of coming together now. And you talked about accessibility through hardware platforms, but I do want to mention that there is a lot that's going on the software side as well, specifically through web-based platforms and the whole WebXR initiative and immersive web and Web3, which I have a little bit a part of as well, because the Poly's WebXR Awards, which I co-host with a good friend, Julie Smithson, produced by Ben Irwin and a bunch of teams, we're partnered with GatherVerse. So I definitely wanted to make that plug because the web is the future, and in my mind, a big part of what will become, what we call the metaverse. So definitely pay attention to that as well. So Terry, we're consulting with a variety of XR companies covering a wide range of industry sectors, and that gives us a very unique perspective. And from your interactions and observations with those companies and their end clients, what are some of the successes you've seen of executing a good XR strategy?
Yeah, so that is definitely a good question, a question we hear often. And I'll tell you, you have the perfect timing because we literally just published our top 10 of AR and VR experiences. So I'll just pull two examples out of that. Number one, VR, a great example from a company called Glue, who has this amazing remote collaboration technology. And they talk about the work they've done with Axel Springer, which is one of the largest media group in Europe, based in Germany. And, you know, during COVID, they had the same problem of everyone going remote, and how, you know, there's a Zoom fatigue, everyone is tired, finding new ways to reconnect people. And I think in their case, and the case of a lot of large organizations, is we're losing the office and we're losing the culture. We're losing the link between the people because text messages are not enough. And they rolled out Glue. They did a pilot with, you know, a small, not so small, like 60 people in the company. And they had an overwhelmingly positive result for the trial. And they realized that this technology, meeting people in the metaverse, was fantastic because they could really find the combination of the rational, the functionality, but also the fun, and be together, and all those light things that you do spontaneously when you're in person. And long story short, massive success. It's being rolled out now as part of the internal communication infrastructure of the whole group, Axel Springer. So that's very interesting. And again, I think it's a proof of we're way beyond the fad phase. Another cool example, this time AR, completely different. So a company called Curial has this great technology that's using advanced scanning to reproduce food, any kind of food. It's especially popular for desserts. So say you go to a French restaurant or an Italian restaurant, and they've got all of those fancy names for desserts, and you don't know what a forêt noire is or a millefeuille or whatever. Well, now you can see it in AR, and you can have a video, if not a video, you can have a 3D interactive version of your dessert, real size, on the table. And it's been super popular. It's been super engaging with customers. They love it. Brings the food to life, brings the menu to life. And some restaurants are reporting that they're seeing growth in their sale of up to 20%. So I think it's another example of fun, exciting, and great for business.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, yeah, like you were saying, it's all about the ROI, right? Or the ROX is the new term that we've coined, the return on experience, right? Is as cool and novel as XR might be, no brand or company or business person in general is going to invest in anything that doesn't have a clear return on their investment. So I think that is definitely one of the most important things that we want to make sure that we get across when developing an XR strategy, right?
Absolutely.
And so on that note, actually, there's a lot of nascent projects going on. It's hard to identify who's done what exists in the ecosystem, who exists in the ecosystem, what use cases are out there that people can draw from, because we don't want to have to keep recreating the wheel and doing these proof of concepts for clients within the same industry sector that our neighbor has done successful pilots for. We want to draw off of that, off of the data, off of their use cases, off of their analytics and ROI that they've drawn for their clients, and be able to validate doing projects and investments from the clients. And it's really hard to find that out there in one place. I mean, you got to scour the internet, really, or build deep relationships, which takes years to be able to do. And so I think what you're doing at Virtual Reality Marketing is very interesting, because it not only aids, end clients or people that are exploring metaverse technology, but people like us in the industry that want to connect with other people doing very specific things, or understand what's been done and draw off that knowledge, because we don't want to recreate the wheel. We want to build off of each other's work.
Absolutely.
So, tell us a little bit more about that, and why you
Absolutely.
chose to do this.
I'll tell you this. ROI is super important, and the reason why we're out of this experimentation phase is that you've got plenty of companies who have been, for the past few years, creating all of those pilots, all of those proof of concept across all business verticals. And a few years back, it was, hey, VR is in the future and we're going to be able to do this for travel. We're going to be able to do that for medical, and we're going to be able to do this for training. And now all the use cases exist. Not all of them, but a lot of those exist already. And they've been deployed, and you have the proof of the ROI and everything. And because you have those proof, because businesses realize that it's a sound business decision, actually very often it's a very effective business decision. And so, yes, it's important. And what we felt we could do, I mean, doing our part, was to try and make this as accessible as possible, as shared as possible. So that's the very reason of being of virtualrealitymarketing.com. We started with a directory of all the creators so that you could look up someone in New York or in Paris, or look up someone doing AR, or someone specialized in automotive. You can go to our site and do that right now. But when you've got a list of 3,000 companies, I kind of like to joke and say that it's a bit useless, because you just have a list of names and people are making claims. And so the next thing you want to have are the case studies. And so that's why we've built this large library. We believe it's the largest library of case studies. In one place, you've got 500 plus case studies. You can read about all of those use cases. And again, you can search, and if you're in medical, if you're in training, if you're here, if you're there, you can literally learn from all of the experience, the shared experience. And I really want to take a minute, by the way, and thanking all of the amazing, talented people who are sharing their content with us all day, every day, all year, and have been for years. It's taken us years to accumulate this knowledge base. And it's an immense wealth, because if you're starting, you can just look up who's the guy, who's the company who's been doing this, what are the benefits, what is the ROI, and you can get in touch with them directly. And then we realized that the site is great, but the community aspect of it was important. So now we've got our community on LinkedIn, where you can go and share and talk and post and ask questions and have this interactive connection with people. And the last thing we've done is we've moved our networking events on the community in the metaverse since this year. It's very fresh. And now we have an opportunity to meet people in the metaverse to talk about all those things. And we're really blessed, because right now we've had an overwhelmingly positive reaction to all of this. And I think it's a great place to start.
Absolutely. And so last question, Terry, what are some of the main things that brands need to think about in order to start thinking about building a long-term strategy for the metaverse, even if they're not ready yet to start building, but they want to prep assets, their business processes and procedures, and just their strategy and thought process around this? Where can they start?
Right. And I think there's many things to say about this, but to summarize, I would say the number one thing to do is, you haven't already, is start now. There's never a better time to start than now. And everything is going super fast in this world. And if you want to keep up with your customers, if you want to keep up with the competition, number one, definitely start now. And then you have a few key building blocks that you want to master. I would say number one, 3D models. 3D models are the backbone of immersive content. And the big thing of the internet versus the metaverse is the shift from a 2D world, a flat world, to a 3D world. And it's funny, by the way, you had the same thing in the video games. When we switched from the Nintendos of the 80s in 2D to 3D games in volume, well, it's the same thing here. And it means that all of your infrastructure in your companies that was supposed to be 2D needs to become 3D, and convert your data, your models, and create this library of 3D content inside of your company. Number two are the game engines. And it's very important. That's where the magic happens. You've got two game engines, Unreal or Unity. And that's where you turn your 3D assets into a fully interactive experience. Number three, I would say, are the avatars, and how you want to represent yourself in the virtual world. And you can, be completely crazy, be cartoony or hyper realistic. You've got some great companies to look at for this. Wolf 3D, Ready Player Me is doing great avatars. On the other end of it, Unreal has MetaHumans avatars also that are fantastic. And the last one I would say is probably to master NFTs. NFTs are everywhere. It's a proof of ownership and traceability of content. And you've got tons of applications for those things. And it's definitely one of those building blocks you want to master.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to reiterate that you had a focus on NFTs as well. And it's not just NFTs, it's the emerging technology market at large, because it's important to understand that Metaverse is enabled by XR technologies, but there are so many more technologies that kind of feed into what it will become. And so get smart on that fast because it's not waiting for us, right? But Terry, thank you so much for spreading the light and helping us understand kind of the basics of the metaverse, how to get involved, where the resources are. I mean, you guys are doing a great service to the community at large, both the XR community and then people that are wanting to get into XR and learn about the metaverse. So thank you for everything, and look forward to seeing you at one of the events that you put on.
Well, thank you, Sophia. It was a pleasure. Thank you for the question. Pleasure talking to you. And we're definitely around. So, I mean, people can look us up on LinkedIn. We're very active over there. It's a great place to start, and look forward to connecting with more people.